going into the next set of games, we have the early game on Sunday. The Giants travel to Buffalo, and boy, did that line zoom. Buffalo opened up as a small favorite. They're now up to -6. And you know what? You can make a case for either team. Let me tell you a couple things. I guess the Giants could be 3-0. We've seen what they did when they played Dallas. They gave it away. Atlanta, they gave it away. They were up by 10 points in both of those. They beat Washington, which they needed to do. Manning, he's had looked good. 4 touchdowns. They have had no interceptions this year. Beckham and Randall, they collectively combined for 400 yards in catches and things like that. And their defense looks good. 4th against the run at 75 yards per game. I think what they're going to be doing is throwing a lot of blitzes and coverages like that, some schemes against Tyrod Taylor. You have to check another one injury, make sure that everybody checks Sammy Watkins' status. And another thing, Buffalo hasn't been really good after a win, or it seems like they go win, lose, straight up, and against the spread. Taylor, he needs a lot of runs from his rushing. It sets up the pass. It sets up his running out of the pocket. And it's a non-conference game, Zach. Usually that favors the big advantage to the home team. How do you see this Buffalo game yourself?
Well, I like to see Buffalo keep their offense going steady, which I think they can do. Tyrod Taylor has been in really good situations 2 of the first 3 weeks. I mean, he played with a lead against the Colts right off the bat, played with a lead against the Dolphins right off the bat. Catapulted by the great defense, forcing turnovers. So the Giants, they're still lacking a good running game. I think they're struggling with Jennings and Shane Vereen from the Patriots. They do have some good wide receivers, which could spell trouble against this the secondary of Buffalo, which got tore up against the Patriots. So I think you've got to play the hand of Tyrod Taylor and see him continue to grow leaps and bounds this week against the Giants at home. We mentioned it a couple weeks ago how strong Buffalo is at home, and I think they carry that over.
They're the Buffalo Bullies at home.
Yep, Buffalo Bullies.
We'll see if they can bully them, the Giants, this week. So we're both on the Buffalo Bills on that game. Well, let's move to the Monday night game. A real great matchup. Detroit 0-3 against Seattle, which is 1-2. They're combined 1-5 is their record. And Seattle, let me tell you, the bandwagon's already jumping on them. They opened up at -8. It's already up to 10, and we haven't even had our Tuesday morning cup of coffee yet. Detroit, what do they bring to the table? Well, they bring a bad offensive line, but they do bring something good on paper. They bring Matt Stafford, Calvin Johnson, and Golden Tate. The problem is they can't get it off the paper and get it onto the field. I mean, what's happening? Stafford, 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. All right, he's got some bad ribs, but they put a flak jacket on. You should see what Manning goes through every single game. It's incredible. But he got sacked 4 times against Manning's boys on defense. Calvin Johnson, he underperforms. 199 yards in 3 games of catching with this talent. I mean, something's wrong with that. I walk more than 199 yards to get to the poker table from valet parking. Denver held him to 1.5 yards per carry, so they have no rushing. At Bulla, he had 23 yards in rushing, if you want to call it that. Seattle, on the other hand, can we make a case for Seattle? Let me throw a couple things out there, Zach. Seattle's struggling. We know that. Why? Well, Lynch is hurting. They're still adjusting to their brand new center. The center is more than just hiking the ball. He's calling out the plays. He's calling out the schemes. He's calling out the cadence, the count, and things like that for his run blockers and the pulling guards. And he's also pointing out. You ever notice that he's holding on to the ball and then he's pointing out, watch that, you take him, because he's got to balance that? Well, it hasn't taken effect yet. Wilson's had 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Jimmy Graham, who came out and said, hey, I'm not too fond of these guys. But on the other hand, they came out and said, well, we're not too fond of Jimmy Graham. Well, anyway, he had 7 catches for 83 yards last week against Chicago. The only thing you can say was probably the best stats out of the entire team. So it looks like an inflated line. I'm not sure I'll bet it, but I do know the value is taking the +10. And it seems to me, Zach, whoever punts the fewest times is probably going to win. What's your take on the Detroit-Seattle game playing in Seattle?
Well, there's no arguing that Seattle has a great home edge, so that's where you kind of see why it would go up to 10. But they're not as good as they were the past 2 years, especially on defense. Nick Foles threw all over them week 1. Week 2, they had problems as well. In week 3, let's just face it, that 16.5-point spread was covered against a team that did absolutely nothing with their quarterback and backup Jimmy Clausen, Chicago Bears. He threw for 70 yards, and they just didn't want to throw it. They tried to run Matt Forte the whole game.
Well, maybe Dan Quinn leaving also had a little impact on that. He's got them 3-0 in Atlanta, and look at this team struggling. So you're right. They're not going to be as good as they were in the past.
And I think that 16.5-point cover is one of the reasons why this line jumped up. You haven't seen double-digit spread covered in a long time like that. And they did it for these, 26-0. So maybe people are thinking, oh, this defense is back. They got Cam Chancellor signed.
And the home field advantage.
And the home field advantage. But I'm on the opposite side just like you are. I think Detroit, even though they lost against Denver, they showed some good signs. They moved the ball well. They just were a play or two from actually either winning that game or covering that game. You know, that was 14-12. Denver had missed the field goal just because a guy walked over from the left side and joined in when you're only supposed to have 6 guys on that side of the line of scrimmage. He made it 7, so they threw the flag. They got to kick the field goal, and all of a sudden, with 7.5 minutes to go, Denver's up 17-12. And again, Detroit was moving down the field. He threw an interception, which, I mean, that was a really tough interception. That linebacker made a great play. And all of a sudden, the spread gets out of hand.
So they had their chances. And also going back to week 1, they were blowing out San Diego.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the recap on when they played, game 2 of Minnesota? At Minnesota.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly how close that was.
Minnesota was ready to play after that blowout loss to San Francisco.
There you go. That was their home opener, so we can understand that. So they do have some talent, but they've got to keep this game close. So I think looking for take the plus 10, is going to be the only way. Maybe tease it down or something. I mean, tease it up to 20 on your 14 10-point teasers, I guess. Who knows? But anyway, if you like this type of analysis, you not only get this every week on the videos there, it's also written analysis on the current games that we'll be selecting this weekend. So make sure you click over there on the 2 heads are better than 1. We're going to have a 3-pack, 3 for the money, and it will get the cash. There will be a 10-star Saturday and a 10-star Sunday on 2 plays that Zack and I both agree on. And the proof's in the pudding. We're 8-2 overall on our big 10-star plays.
Correct.
When we say, hey, we love this play, and I already got my college play. We just got to work it out with your sources and make sure that we both agree on this one. But it will be a nice home team underdog on Saturday, and then meanwhile we'll see what we got. So thanks for come back each week. Yep, thanks.